Eric Burgess here with Music Marketing TV, and today we are going to be diving into Phosyon's distortion area. Previously, we had talked about the envelopes and how those work, and we're going to be adding to our knowledge how the distortion works so we can get those nice, juicy 303 distorted bass riffs. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Distortion is actually pretty straightforward to understand. Essentially, we have a preamp, which turns the signal up. So if we actually have the preamp all the way down and the clipper all the way up, there will be no audible distortion. Like if we turn this on and just go ahead and play it. Like there's some filters technically going on here. So if I turn this off, so it's a warmer sound after. That's due to these knobs, but this is where the distortion really happens. Okay, and then these are going to serve to give us all kinds of tonal possibilities. So what we do here is we've got a preamp to turn the signal up, and then we've got a clipper right after it. And what the clipper does is if your signal is coming up, and normally it will peak and come back down, right? But the clipper will stop it and make it clip right there. It'll add this flat line and won't be able to continue. The waveform won't be able to continue up like it would have. It's going to stop and then come back down. And what this ends up translating to is a bunch of higher harmonics that just sound super nice and juicy. So if we actually just turn the preamp up, we'll end up just clipping the DAW. If I actually play this. So that's the DAW clipping. So we want it to clip into this clipper because this clipper has been designed and modeled to go with the 303 with Phoscyon. So let's go ahead, let's just bring this down. We'll clip it into this. Now, if we bring it all the way down, if you see negative 60 dB, it's going to clip right away because it's a super low threshold. Everything's going to hit a threshold that's really low. And as a result, it's going to sound very soft, but super distorted. As you can hear that. But now we could try bringing it up. But this is just going to drive it into the clipper harder. What you actually need to do is you need to add a post gain. So in the insert or the slot or whatever DAW you're using, whatever they call it, you just need to add an extra gain knob. So you just gain it up. You could add a compressor, do whatever you got to do. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the clipper up to about halfway, and then we're going to drive this signal into the clipper. So we're going to amplify it till it hits the clipper. And you start to get this really lovely sound. Now yours might sound super different. That's because of these guys over here. So you will notice here that these guys and these guys, they are connected by this pre-post knob. So pre means we hit the clipper, the preamp and the clipper first, and then we go over to these, which control various aspects of 3 filters. So there's a clipped path, and then there is a path. So here's like the clipped path, and we could go down the clipped path, or we could go down another path. I would just pretend there's a path here that has filters on it. And these control various aspects of those filters. This one, it says, if you want to know what they actually like officially do, you could go in the manual and look at the signal flow diagram, but I think they're actually named really well. So we've got the brightness here, which is actually, if you look in there, it's a crossfader between clipped and unclipped. And we could bring this up and it'll just make it sound brighter. It does exactly what it says it does. And things like how the resonance moves in a sweep time. I mean, these moves all get really, really particular with where they sit now because they're going to be emphasized by this distortion that's happening. We've got wetness, and this actually isn't a crossfade. It's kind of strange. It actually goes to the cutoffs, if I recall correctly. Then we've got size and density, which I choose to view these as just timbral shaping knobs. So they also affect things like resonance and cutoff, but they don't do it in quite the same way. And moving these can, especially I've noticed with size right here in this region, can produce some really gnarly textures when your resonance is up. So that's what's going on here. Now we have the ability, let's go ahead and get something with some serious bite on it. And now what we could do is, instead of doing the preamp and the clipper into these, we can actually reverse it. So that these happen first, and then we hit the preamp and the clipper. If we take this off, that sounds totally different. And the knobs, the way the sounds are going to interact is going to be different because we've swapped the order. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on pre. And let's get some other sound. Let's get another interesting sound. What's something else we can do with this? So there's just the general ideas, but let's do something a bit different. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring the resonance back just a touch. I'm going to change the sweep. Why is that staying there? I'm going to change the sweep down some. And I'm going to move the cutoff up. And let's get a different pattern going, you know? Let's just choose something different. And let's bring the preamp down. So here I'm going to bring down the envelope accent quite a bit, actually. When you change the clip controls the general volume level. I'm going for kind of a warmer sound here. So instead of something so bright and grabby almost, I'm going to go for something that's a little more subdued. And to do that also, I find that square waves tend to help quite a bit. I'm going to bring the accent decay down. I kind of regret doing that. It's pretty amazing, just the huge variety you can get, and there's a lot of organic morphing that can occur when you're messing with them. And so automating these and tweaking them on the fly, highly encouraged. It's pretty much always going to sound cool, especially since when you reach the place that you want to sit, there's like this organic trail that you left behind on how you grew to that point. So that's the distortion unit. And I noticed really quick here that I'm also clipping a bit, and that's something you're going to need to keep your eye on. So you might want to dial this back, maybe have a limiter after in the actual channel strip, because it's pretty easy to accidentally clip with this process. And so just keep your eyes sort of on your meters. But if we just dial it back a bit, it doesn't do anything to the sound really. And that's when you could turn up the preamp if you want and do that kind of a thing. So that's the distortion unit. As you can see, we're going to start to grab a lot of these ideas and use them to be directionally creative. We're not just going to be, sometimes we're going to be twisting knobs just to sort of see what happens. But a lot of the times, you know, knowing how this works and how the general process works allows us to go in a direction that we actually want to go in. We're not just sort of doing guesswork here. So there's a couple basic ideas. The preamp into the clip, understanding what pre and post does, and understanding that how these envelopes now work is really quite powerful. Like we can hear the extra rhythm now coming out of the accent envelopes. And we know what causes those. And if we want to dial them back, for example, we can just bring the envelope accent down. You're bringing it back even further. And if we also, the reason we're still getting the boost, we know is because of the accent volume here. So we can bring this down, leave the filter up. And we can begin to produce effects that we like specifically know kind of what to expect coming out, which is the goal with what we're doing here. If you have any questions about this, let me know, subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos, and have a blessed day.